So before the episode starts, I want to make something clear again. I'm gonna show a lot of bugs with pistons, but my intention is not for you to memorize them or to be able to recreate those bugs. My intention is for you to understand that pistons do not work as intended and that you need to play around a bit with them for yourself to get a feeling for what they can do. So I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you next time. Hello everyone, this is Dro. Welcome back to the Redstone tutorial number 6, and today we're going to take a look at why pistons are the weirdest thing ever implemented in Minecraft. So let's take a look at some basics first again. We can power pistons by running redstone dust into them, and also by running redstone dust into the block next to them, which you should know already. What we can't do, however, is run redstone dust into their faces, because if you think about it, what would happen? It would just push away this redstone and never extend again. Also, we can't power the block in front of pistons, or at least it won't extend then. You can power the block, obviously. And what you should also know is there are two types of pistons. A normal version and a sticky version that pulls the block back. The sticky version only pulls back one block though. So we need to do some more things to pull this one back as well. And sticky in that case doesn't mean that it holds onto the block. You see, it just pulls the block and then it can fall back down again. Now there's a limit to how many blocks a piston can push, which is 12 blocks. And if we add a 13th one, it won't be able to extend. There are also immovable blocks, just like obsidian and droppers, furnaces, hoppers, pretty much anything with an inventory and bedrock and some more. It just doesn't extend then. And if we have an immovable block that would be pushed by this block, it can also not extend. What is also an immovable block, so to speak, is an extended piston. And that is also true for the piston arm. So neither the arm nor the body can be pushed, although we can push a piston when it's not powered. And a very notable example here is that the only thing that can be pushed by a piston that can be picked up by a comparator is a cauldron. So that is just some stuff that you may need sometime. Now, if you have a look at the redstone dust down there, you will find that it turns off for a short moment while the piston extends. So what happens there is that the piston and the block turn into an entity, meaning they are not a block anymore. Maybe I can show you this with the F3 screen on the entity count here. Okay, I can't. But anyway, it turns into an entity, and that means it's not a block anymore, and when it's extended, it regains the properties of the block. And that takes 1.5 ticks. So this is why this dual edge detector works. You see, it detects when we flick the lever. What that also means is that if we apply a pulse that is shorter than 1.5 ticks, that this happens. We can also grab the block back. So what happens there is that the piston extends, but before the block is actually here, it retracts again, meaning that it leaves the block behind. I hope I've explained that good enough. We're gonna get back to that later. So another thing that is weird about pistons is something like this. Just have a look. So if I flick the lever back, what should happen is this block should retract and turn into an entity. And because there's not a block there anymore, it should just extend and leave the piston there. However, that doesn't happen. If we have a look at this, this is the exact same setup. You see, it works just as I mentioned. So pistons are a bit buggy, and I'm going to show you a bit more bugs. But what I want you to learn is that pistons don't always behave like intended. Now, another thing that doesn't work like intended, that is also dependent on the position, is something like this. You see it doesn't retract, only when we give it a block update. But this one does. So pistons are really buggy. And I just found them by accident. So yeah. So again, to the 1 tick pulse and 1.5 tick pulse thing. What you see here is that this torch unpowers the piston the exact same instant that this redstone dust powers the piston again. So let's have a look at what happens with the piston. You see, we have a visual glitch there. And what we can also do with pulses that are with two short pulses is something like this. We can teleport blocks. So this is all very, very glitchy stuff. And there's loads of that involving pistons. Next off, we have something like this. We have a sticky piston here, and if you look closely, there's something weird that I'm gonna explain in a moment. Have a look at this redstone dust there. You see it blinks. But why does it blink? Because if you think about it, this repeater can power the piston down there. Why, I explain in a moment. And the exact same instant that this piston is powered, this block is turned into an entity and not a block anymore. So this shouldn't actually turn on because it would give a signal without any length. But what we can do is we can pick up the signal with a repeater. So this is also a glitch. And what you see here is we can power pistons by running a repeater into an imaginary block on the top, which is really, really weird. What's also weird is, we can't power half slabs directly. But what happens here is pretty much the exact same thing. So I'm not sure if this is intended behavior, but it certainly is. It is not consistent with all the other blocks. For example, if we have a lamp here, you see it doesn't work. But this doesn't have to do anything with the half slab itself. It's more like the redstone that's going into the piston, because something like this does not work. Although something like this does work, which means the half slab still has something to do with it. And again, not really sure if that's intended or not. It's just, it is like this. Also, you will find we can power pistons in all sorts of ways. because this shouldn't power anything, but it powers pistons. And if you have a look at this, well, this is a falling edge monostable circuit because this torch can also power this piston, and you will see how it works now. It pretty much does nothing here. But if we rotate the whole thing by 90 degrees, you see it somehow matters where the redstone block comes from. Again, glitchy. Now, if you play around with pistons a bit, you will find that something like this is also quite strange. And something like this also, because why would the bottom piston extend? You see, we can extend the top piston normally, like we would expect it. And the bottom piston doesn't extend. But let's give it a block update, and you see it extends. And the same phenomenon happens when we power it diagonally. But not if we power it diagonally. So what that means is that if you power any of these 5 blocks here, the piston is quasi-powered, but it is not extended. Hence we call this phenomenon quasi-connectivity. This is exploited in many redstone builds, but it is not intended, and if you find a piston doesn't retract, although it should, it's probably one of these blocks that is powered, so you probably want to check for those. Again, I can only say pistons are very glitchy, and I can't really teach you how they work because you have to explore it by yourself and play a bit around with them. What I want you to do as a home assignment, now this is not glitchy anymore, is build a working double piston extender. So we have a sticky piston, and a normal block, and what we want to happen is this one is powered for the extension. It doesn't matter if this one's powered or not. And for the retraction we want to unpower this one, and unpower this one. So again, a tip, it doesn't matter if this one is powered at the beginning, and if it's like this, it doesn't matter if this one's powered for the when it's extended. And if you want to play around a bit more, then you can try to build all of the logic gates, which is NOR, AND, NAND, XOR, and XNOR, just with pistons, repeaters, and redstone dust. So what you can do is move blocks around. You can power blocks and send power through blocks. And you can also move powered blocks out of the way. So thank you very much for watching. This has been Dro. Please give a like if you find it appropriate, and I will see you in the next episode.